Hi everyone, and welcome to today's lesson on eukaryotes and prokaryotes. So if you just have a look at the learning objectives at the top, you will be able to, at the end, recall the functions of organelles, okay, in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes, compare and contrast prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, and we're going to practice some past paper GCSE questions, okay? So if you'd like to write this down, I think it's a really good idea. If you've got some notes with you or a workbook, it might be a great idea to kind of write things down as we go. If you haven't and you just have access to your phone, that's okay as well. You can still take part in all of the activities. So let's have a look at this. How could you classify cells? Now, if you're writing this down, again, now would be a good time to do that. How would you classify them? It says use the categories to the right to help you if you need. So biological cells can be classified into two different groups, and one of those groups can themselves be classified into two different groups, okay? So there's some words here that might help you. For example, animal cells and plant cells, eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. So this is really nice summary to see how everything fits together. So if you want to pause the video now and have a go at this, I'd suggest you do before we go through the answers. Okay, so well done if you got this right. So biological cells have two subdivisions, all right, at GCSE biology. There's prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And then within eukaryotic cells, animal cells and plant cells can be found. Okay, so this is kind of like an overall summary of how cells are categorized in GCSE biology. Let's have a quick true or false quiz to see what you remember. Okay, so we'll just have a quick recap just about eukaryotic cells first, and then we'll go into prokaryotic cells. So animal and plant cells both have a cell wall. Remember, if you're writing this down, maybe just put T or F, or if you're doing this in your head, that's absolutely fine. So true or false, they both have a cell wall. True or false, they both contain ribosomes. True or false, both have small vacuoles. Both have mitochondria. Both have no chloroplasts. Only animal cells have a cell wall, is it true or false? And the nucleus controls the activities of the cell. So have a think. Again, feel free to pause the video if I've gone too fast. We're going to go through the answers now, so make sure you've had a go. Okay, so this is just kind of a recap. This is a very basic diagram for animal cells and plant cells. Okay, so this might help. So both have a cell wall is false. Okay, animal cells do not have a cell wall. Both contains ribosomes is true. Now this diagram, you can't really see ribosomes actually, because ribosomes are so small, and they're often kind of given as just dots in a diagram, but they both contain ribosomes in their cytoplasm. Both have small vacuoles, that is false, okay, because a plant has a vacuole that contains cell sap. Both have mitochondria, which is true, because both need to respire. Both have no chloroplasts, false, okay. So the animal cell is the only one that has no chloroplast. Plant cells can have chloroplasts. Only animal cells have a cell wall is false, and the nucleus controls the activities of the cell. True. That is a really nice sentence in terms of stating the function of the nucleus. Okay, either you can say in a GCSE biology question, well, it contains DNA or contains genetic information, or you can say that it controls the activities of the cell. If you didn't do so well on this quiz, I suggest that you look at the separate lesson, which is solely on these two cells. So there is a separate lesson available that is just looking at animal and plant cells, but for now I'm going to move on a little bit. So what do you think a bacteria cell looks like? Again, if you're kind of going along with this as a regular lesson, what you might want to do is pause this video and have a scribble on a scrap bit of paper and see what you can remember in terms of bacteria cell. Or if you can't remember anything, maybe you just like to have a guess. What does it look like? What do the organelles, what organelles are there in a bacteria cell? By organelle, I mean things like nucleus, vacuole, chloroplast. Okay, so they are the things that we find in cells. Okay, now you will find lots of different diagrams and your textbooks will have a variety of different diagrams, but they all follow a similar trend, like what is on the screen now. Okay, so for example, it'll have a cell membrane, it'll have cytoplasm, it'll have genetic material, okay, it'll have a cell wall. Some of them do not have slime capsules, so you might see that, but you might not. Some of them will have a flagellum, okay, which we'll talk about what that does in a minute. Some of them might not. They will have probably plasmids, which are circular rings of DNA, and we'll come to the functions in a second. I would suggest you have a look at this as well, okay? So 1 micrometer. Now, in another lesson, we're going to talk about measurements, okay, and conversions between measurements, but 1 micrometer is a very small number. So let's just go over some of the functions of these new parts. So bacteria have no nucleus, okay. Prokaryote, if a eukaryote means a true nucleus, prokaryote, think of like before, okay. So it has no nucleus. That is a key difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. It is free. It is circular and free in the cytoplasm. So again, look here, you might just have some genetic material. Rings of DNA, however, if you look here, are called plasmids and they carry extra genetic information. Flagella allow the towels to move, okay, or used for locomotion, which is a really nice word. And the slime capsule protects the bacteria. Again, if you're writing this down, I'd recommend that you pause this video now and write down some of those key points. We'll put this into practice shortly in terms of GCSE past paper questions. If you're keeping a concise bunch of notes together for biology, please do take the time to write some of this down. This is an optional task, and it's for those that maybe like to have a kind of different set of notes instead of just having bullet points. Maybe they like to put things in a different way. It's for those people that like more kind of visual representation of what's going on. So it says use the coloured information tables to complete a Venn diagram. I'll show you what a Venn diagram looks like, comparing eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. So don't forget that this is our prokaryotic cell. These are our eukaryotic cells. Okay, I'm not going to spend too long on this because you've got the information here. So what you can do is you can always pause this video and have a look at this information. And again, if you'd like to put it in this kind of format, it's really useful for revision because you get lots of questions about comparing and contrasting the difference between these 3 cells. So I'd suggest this. Obviously, if you know your Venn diagram from diagrams from maths, the things in here will just have animal eukaryotic cells, will just be specific for those. The ones in here will be specific to eukaryotic cells in plants, maybe, I don't know, a chloroplast, for example. The ones in the middle, okay, because it's overlapping between animals and plants, this will contain some of the organelles that are specific to both animal and plant, but not bacteria cells or prokaryotes. So this might, for example, contain mitochondria. And here you've got, obviously, the prokaryotic cells with some overlaps as well. So I'd suggest, again, if you're more than welcome to pause the video here and put this information into Venn diagrams for your notes. Let's look at some GCSE past paper questions. Okay, again, you can do this verbally or you can write any of these down. So there's quite a lot of questions to choose from. GCSE biologists like putting this in the papers. So we have a bacteria and a plant cell. So already you're thinking maybe prokaryote, eukaryote. Okay. Both the bacteria and plant cell contain ribosomes. Question 1, what is the function of ribosomes? It then says that the plant cell contains mitochondria, but a bacterial cell does not. Give one other way in which the plant cell is different from the bacterial cell. Okay, feel free to pause the video to write any of this down. If you want to do it in your head, that's fine as well. We'll have a go, I believe, at one more question before we go through these answers. This is a lovely question. Most mitochondria are about 3 micrometers or micrometers in length. Okay. The plant cell contains mitochondria, but the bacterial cell does not. use your answer and the information and diagram to suggest why. Now, I really like this question because even though it seems quite simple, quite a lot of people get it wrong. Okay, so it's asking, it's saying that the plant cell contains mitochondria, but the bacterial cell does not. It's saying use the information in the diagram to suggest why, not actually your knowledge, strangely enough. So have a look back at this diagram and think, why would a bacterial cell not contain mitochondria using the information from this diagram? So again, have a go at that. What I'd suggest is that you pause this video if I'm going too fast, right? Because I'm going to go through the answers in a second. So have a go at these questions and this question. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, so really, really well done. Let's look at the mark schemes. I think it's actually really worth looking at mark schemes because sometimes they can be, it's good to practice, okay? Because when you're practicing past paper questions by yourself and maybe marking it by yourself, it's good to know what you got correct and incorrect. So AI is because it makes proteins, okay? So well done if you remembered that. Plant cell has a nucleus, or you could say the plant cell has chloroplasts or chlorophyll, or it's much larger. Right, it says allow correct reference to DNA or chromosomes, allow cellulose cell wall. This is the stuff that if you did the Venn diagram task, it'd be really useful because a lot of that information is in there. Okay, now look at the only mark available. It says that the bacteria is too small, okay, or there's no room. It says ignore references to respiration, because they have asked you specifically to use the information in the diagram. They have not said use your own knowledge. That's quite a tricky one. So well done if you got those correct. Let's have a go at one more. Very quick one. Genetic material is arranged differently in the cells of bacteria compared to animal and plant cells. Describe two differences. Remember, it's asking for a description, so be really, really clear. It's 2 marks, so make sure you put 2. Okay, pause the video now to have a go before we go through the answers. So let's have a look. You could say there's one strand of DNA, or it's circular, okay, because they have plasmids, or it's not in a nucleus. So I know me personally, I would have said, well, there's no nucleus in prokaryotes, and they have plasmids, okay, which are circular rings of DNA, and that would have definitely got me the 2 marks. Okay, guys, so really well done for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck with GCSE biology.